We'll be using 2x4s for this project. First we're going to start by cutting them to length. Then we'll head to the joiner and joint one face. With one face flat, we'll head over to the planer and make the other side parallel. With opposing sides parallel, we'll head back to the joiner and square up the third face. Then at the table saw, we'll cut the pieces to their final dimension. With our frame pieces cut to the final size, we can now move and start cutting the grooves to hold the glass, the LEDs, and then the mirror in the back. Then at the router table, we can route our decorative roundover, as well as the chamfer on the inside face. With all the milling on the frame pieces complete, we can head to the table saw to cut our miters. With all of our pieces cut to their final size, we can now go ahead and glue and brad nail everything together. Once the frame's completely assembled, I like to fill all of the nail holes with drywall compound. While the frames are drying, we can go ahead and apply our tint film to the glass. The window film I'm using is made by Gilla, and you can find it at your big box store. To apply this, you just want to cut a piece to the rough size, make sure your glass is good and clean. Then you want to peel the protective back off. As you peel it off, you want to spray it with a soap and water solution to keep it from sticking to anything. Then you spray your piece of glass with soap and water, and then stick it on and smooth it out with an old credit card. With the film completely smoothed out, I trim it to just a little bit larger than the size of the glass. This allows for any shrinkage. Then set it aside and let it dry. Heading back out to the shop, we can go ahead and cut the pieces for our back, and then make a notch for the wires. And we can sand our frame to prepare for paint. You can use whatever colored paint you want. I just like the black, and I'm using a spray paint, so I'm going to give it about 5 or 6 coats, letting it dry in between. With the paint drying, we'll head inside to solder up our LED light strip. This LED strip has 4 connectors, one for the red, one blue, one green, and then a ground. You want to apply some flux, and then go ahead and pre-tin each connection point. When you're done, it should look something like that. Now we can go ahead and strip and pre-tin each wire. When you're finished, it should look something like this. With the frame complete and the LED strips done, now we can go ahead and stick the LED strips to the inside of the frame. My nephew gave me a tip that you want to try to keep the LED strips in the center between the glass and the mirror. This keeps your LED strips from looking like pears in the final product. And to help get the spacing right, I just cut a spacer to help. And using the spacer, just continue working your way all the way around. Whenever you get all the way around back to the corner, just cut your strip to their final length and then use hot glue to help stick everything in the corners. With the strips in, go ahead and give your glass a good final cleaning, as well as your mirror. And then we can go ahead and assemble it by installing our mirror face down, a piece of cardboard to help hold everything tight, and our backer board that we cut with a notch in it. And then one final light test before we close the back end for good. I'm just going to use a little framing nailer to do this. Next we want to install all of the components on the back. To do this I'm just going to use hot glue to help hold all the wires in place. Now we can measure and install our picture frame hanger. The final step is to glue our little infrared sensor in place and then hang it on the wall. With it hung on the wall, your project's complete. I think it looks pretty awesome and I want to thank my nephew for the idea.